there, welcome to Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting. I'm Nicole and this is episode 32. Welcome. The name Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting, gets its name because I'm a math education professor that is 1 week away from spring break. And all the things I'll talk about today are linked below. You can follow me on Instagram and Ravelry if you use those as profpurl. If you like channels where people give you knitting updates, like that's essentially what this episode is. And then at the end, I share personal things and like what I'm reading and things. So today I have a really epic finished object, another epic work in progress. And I know I overuse the word epic, but like they truly are epic. And some other little works in progress and some knitting reflections from a math conference if you're into that. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. I have one finished object for this episode and I'm wearing it and it is amazing. So I test knit the cardigan called the Plump Cardigan, designed by Knitting Ruined My Life, and it's officially out. And I met the test knitting deadline and was able to post pictures on Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, you might already know that I've finished this sweater. Since I last recorded and uploaded an episode on YouTube, I've done a lot of knitting on this. I finished 2 sleeves and I finished some pockets. I have the general philosophy that anything with pockets is better. Like, just anything with pockets is better. So a skirt with pockets, a dress with pockets, a sweater with pockets, like, yeah. And I mean, what am I putting in these pockets? Basically just my hands. I haven't like put any pencils or anything like that in there, but I mean, they've been nice for my hands. And okay, some details about the sweater. So it's a very like classic, somebody might say basic cardigan, in that like it's something that like will withstand like the test of time. Like I can see myself being like, 90 and still wearing this. Yeah, it was designed in Spin Cycle Plump. That's why it gets its name, Plump Cardigan. But I knit it out of Boucle and Mohair together. This yarn is by Chelsea Yarns, and I got gauge by holding those 2 strands of yarn together. And if you're not into spin cycle, like I think you could really hold a lot of yarn together and get gauge, since it is a plump yarn. Basically a DK and a mohair or any variation that would give you that weight. This color was called Chelsea's Coop, and what's really nice is it has so many different colors, green, yellow, like just so many different colors. So I've worn this like not every day since I finished it, but like at least every other day. And like on Sunday we went to the zoo and I was wearing my green zoo shirt, Oregon Zoo shirt that had like a tiger on it, and like this looked good over it. Like I have yet to find a t-shirt in my wardrobe that this doesn't look really good over. And I love t-shirts, so that's really cool. Though it's a classic cardigan, I think there's some details about it that just like are like outstanding to me. One simple thing is it was designed without buttons, which I kind of like because it just honors this like kind of throw over kind of look. There's little details that are just like amazing. And I might have already talked about these the last episode, but I'm going to do it again. But there's some extra details that, anyway. One is this folded over hem instead of like a ribbing, a traditional ribbing. Though if you didn't like it, you could just replace it with ribbing and it would be easy enough in the pattern to do that. It's a little bit extra work, right? To like do a folded over hem situation. Worth it though, because it's like plump and delicious there. So I love it. It's not just like a traditional pick up and go kind of sleeve situation. This is an applied I-cord edging. So there's like a little bit of a ridge here, but I like that. I like that little detail. And then, I don't know if it'll show up, but there's a curved hem. Okay, so that's like a little something extra I really like. I think I talked about those last episode, but here's the new thing. It fits me so perfect. I think it's like the best fitting cardigan, store-bought and hand knit in my wardrobe. And so that's been giving me a lot of joy. Partly why I've been wearing it. It's like got just enough positive ease. It's like super comfy, but also it's not like, still like stays on my shoulders and fits me really well. So that's been really nice. The only modifications I did were like making the sleeve shorter than the pattern suggested, but that's because I've got shorter arms, I think. And so that's a great thing about knitting sweaters is you can just try your sweater on and make the sleeves that are right for you. Maybe they're longer, maybe they're shorter. The second thing I did is the pattern calls for a tubular bind off on the bottom, which is just, my personal opinion, gorgeous. I asked on Instagram how people felt about the tubular bind off, and it was like mixed reviews. Like some people were like, always tubular, the best, and people were like, never. It is a little fiddly. But, and the pattern, it says bind off in pattern, like with the ribbing. But I thought if I went to all this effort to do tubular here, we're gonna do tubular here. So I did tubular here. But then as I was knitting, I realized maybe the designer said bind off in pattern here. So it matched the pockets because it said bind off in pattern. So then I was like, am I gonna do tubular here? And I didn't wanna do tubular, so I did Italian bind off, which is the last step of tubular, related, like a cousin to tubular bind off, but a little different. So it gives a similar look, a little less work. So I did Italian bind off on that. The pattern gave you options for pockets, like a patch pocket or an applied pocket. Because I had kind of a mohair, I used mohair for the sewing of this bind off, and that was rough. I knew I didn't want to sew, so I avoided sewing as much as possible. So when I was here, though I could sew this down, I didn't. I knit into it and down. And same deal here. I didn't want to sew my pocket on. I think if you're using Spin Cycle Plump, it'd be great, but for this, no. So I did my very first applied pocket, and I used a tutorial from the Fat Squirrel, and it was amazing. I'll link it below if I remember. Hopefully I remember. It was so good. And honestly, now that I've done this applied pocket, I'm like, the technique on it was so cool and easy. You should go watch that tutorial. It makes me want to do applied pockets on a lot of stuff because pockets are great. And this was super easy to add on. And yeah, so this is just so good. It's so good. I love it so much. And ironically, I've been wearing it all morning, but I think I'm going to take it off now for the rest of the episode. Because right before I recorded this, I went for a walk, and it is so nice out here. Actually, my exercise thing was just still on my watch. Yeah, it's 55 degrees Fahrenheit out with a high of 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's super sunny, and I don't know, I'm feeling kind of warm right now. So I think I'm going to take it off, sadly, because it's amazing. We're going to transition to works in progress. And I've taken my sweater off. I put it back here so I can at least still have it with me. At least I have a knitting shirt on today. This is for my friend Kim. She probably bought it on Etsy. Plan for today. That's pretty spot on. So I've been recording long enough that I've filled up a notebook and I'm switching to a new one. I always have so many works in progress. I need to look at what I'm planning on chatting about. Okay. So the work in progress, besides the sweater that I just finished, the other thing that's really consumed my time has been a second sweater test knit. That sweater comes out tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, by the time I edit this and upload it to YouTube, it's probably out. And that's the Heritage Harbor sweater by Samantha Guerin Designs. It's a very classic sweater that if you knit, you'll wear for your lifetime. It's just amazing. It was designed in 2 colors. As you'll see, I'm knitting mine in more than one color. So look at this. Since I last recorded, I finished the ribbing. It's a long ribbing, much longer than I'm used to, and it fits me really well, but I think maybe people that have like a wider hip or something, I would say either knit the sweater oversized or do a split hem, because it's kind of a longer sweater. It's not a crop sweater by any means. I would say in my wardrobe, it's the longest sweater that I own. I did a tubular bind off. Look at that. So beautiful. I asked how people felt about it on Instagram, and I was surprised to learn some people don't like the way it looks. And that's awesome. That's just like the cool thing about knitting. If you don't like tubular, you can do whatever bind off you love. I love the tubular, so I did the tubular. And I think it's a sensory thing too. I just like, it's very like it's a plush, like a very squishy plush bind off. So look at these colors. In my last episode, I think I like talked through them, and it's a drop shoulder design. I'm on the sleeve for the 3rd time. Yeah. So the elephant in the room, this is a test knit, and it's due tomorrow. And here we are. Yeah, so what happened for me is that I had a hard time with the sleeve depth. It didn't fit me well. And this didn't happen to any of the other testers, so it's just like maybe a body type thing. But the sleeve my armhole was too tiny, and so I had to make it longer, the depth. And so then I'm knitting the size 4, so then when I went to do the sleeve, I picked up the size 4 stitch count on the sleeve, and it looked terrible. And that's because I made my sleeve 2 inches in circumference bigger, so like using the same stitch counts kind of didn't make sense. So I ripped it out, and I picked up the amount of stitches that looked good, and then I decreased down to the stitch count for my arm size. And then I tried it on, and I didn't like the way it looked. It was too tight. It would have like loosened up as my arm gets smaller. Like it would have loosened up as my sleeve got down, but that was just like, it wasn't giving me the look that I liked. So I knit the size 4 body, and I made the armholes bigger, and I'm knitting a size 5 sleeve. I've never had to do that before, but I don't knit drop shoulder designs a lot, so it's like I think like that could be part of it. I mostly knit raglan circular yokes, and those have just a totally different fit. So this is like, I would say my first, technically the one I just finished was drop shoulder, but and technically I guess I did knit a Christmas sweater that's drop shoulder, but this is only my 3rd drop shoulder in the last 5 years or so. So, yeah, I'm not as familiar with that construction on my body type. So, yeah, it's not an excuse, but it is an excuse about why I'm not finishing my test knit on time. I really want to power through this today. I think it would be really awesome on the release date to at least have like the body and one sleeve done. I don't know how realistic that is, but I tend to be very unrealistic with my knitting. So as you can see, my sleeve colors are different than my body colors, and so that's intentional. I wanted to use as many different colors as I could, and so I'm going to have the 2 sleeves match each other, but not match the body of the sweater. So yeah, so I'm really excited for this sweater. It's going to be just such a classic staple, and it's a good weight for where I live in the Pacific Northwest. It'll be like a nice cozy sweater for me with a DK weight. I've gotten some questions on Instagram about like how much yarn I'm using for these stripes. And so I am using for each stripe less than 10 grams for my size. And so I'll double that for these, but about 10 grams. So the little mini skeins I had were like 20 grams. So I'm using about half of them, which means I have a lot left. And like, I tend to romanticize like all the knitting I'm going to do and it doesn't happen, but I think it would be cool to, out of the leftovers of this, like knit a pair of matching socks. We'll see. But yeah. And oh, I have to show this little progress keeper that's bringing me joy. I had one that was Valentine's Day while I was knitting this, and I switched it out since Valentine's Day is over. And it's a little pet rock from Charmed and Dangerous. And I think sometimes like when you're in a funk with a knit, like just switching out your progress keeper or something can like kind of freshen your attitude towards the knit. And so that's been fun. So, oh, the base yarn is, let's see if I have a label, is West Yorkshire Spinners, 100% British wool. And one of the things that's been kind of fun about this is it's BFL, so I'll be knitting it, and every now and then there's a black little hair in there, and I'm like, it just feels really natural and nice. And yeah, so I'm mixing natural with superwash. Not something I would like if I was going out and buying yarn I would do, but since I was knitting with things I had, I didn't mind trying that out. Okay, so this is my bag from Barley and Purls. It's called the library bag, and it snaps. It's super cute with all these like library cards on it. The fabric is like, almost feels like a canvas fabric, so it's a little harder than like a fabric. It's like a regular cotton fabric. And I've been keeping like little tiny projects like socks and things like this in here, and this has been like my work knitting. So on Pi Day, I mean, if you're not familiar what Pi Day is, it's March 14th. So Pi 3.141528. You know, March, so the third month, the 14th day, 3.14 Pi Day. I cast on a Sophie scarf because I had yarn that was math themed, and I've had it for about a year. I bought it around Pi Day last year, and I was like, now is the time. So yeah, I had this yarn, both mohair and fingering, from Purls and Postulates, which I love this dyer, Jessica. Like, her aesthetic is amazing. She's got math and science themed yarns. Like, it's so good. So I use the mohair, which is 72% mohair, 28% silk. And I use the Harris sock, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I purchased that in both of these colors. They're called Irrationally Imaginary. That was cute. So Pi, that's an irrational number. It says get real. And then I, that is not a real number, says be rational, which is funny because Pi is not irrational and I, the number, is not a real number, so it's cute, okay? Okay, if you know that math, you'll think that's hilarious. So that was very apropos for Pi Day, so I cast it on. And then this past weekend, I had a math conference. And I'm a math education professor, but this was a pure math conference with like mathematicians. And so I thought it would be fun to knit my Sophie scarf, cast this on Pi Day, and then knit this at the math conference. So that's what I did. If you're new here, I'll tell you about this. If you have been watching, you know that this is my Sophie scarf needle. I just bought these needles this year, and I just plan on knitting a Sophie scarf and then filling these needles with another Sophie scarf. So I really am enjoying these needles. They're called unicorns. So cute. From Addie. And they have a pink cable. And actually, you know, the cable is not as nice as the red Chowgoo, right? Like, it's just not. But it is also really nice. And so I'm just enjoying this whole situation. So, another whip. Which is funny because I just recently wrote down all my whips. I'll just like flash you the picture really quick. All the whips. And, you know, it's like, it just recently cast off a Zoe scarf that I'm like, let me put one back on. So I'm like not making a dent in here, but that's fine. Okay. And I have one more work in progress I've worked on since I've last recorded. And it's another test knit. And it is my very first time test knitting a doll pattern. And it's very sweet. So the designer Melanie Rountree, and her design name is Rountree Stitchery, has designed these sweaters, and I think there's an adult one and then there's a children's one that have this like puff sleeve, and they're super cute. And I saw her kind of like on her Instagram post a doll version. So imagine an adult child doll. And she was looking for testers for dolls. And she's doing a variety of sizes of dolls. But the size I'm testing is supposed to fit either a bitty baby or an American Girl doll. And so it's kind of like a dark yarn, so maybe hard to see here. But basically, well, I don't have enough of it to show you to give the construction, but you can get the gist. It's a puff sleeve. Where my stitch markers fell off. Just started it. So you see, just started. So there's like some ribbing, a little ribbing that's straight, and there's like a puff sleeve, and it looks like maybe an I-cord neck. It's a very stretchy sweater, she says, so that's why it fits both a bitty baby and American Girl doll. If you actually like buy clothes from the company, like bitty baby clothes do not fit American Girl dolls, but this sweater should be stretchy enough. And I will try it on both. I'm using this yarn that's left over from when I first moved to Oregon from Illinois to Oregon in 2015. I went to my very first Rose City Yarn Crawl out here in the Portland area, and it was really exciting to me because at the time I had been online shopping from a store called Happy Knits. It's no longer open, but I was like an online shopper in Illinois from this store that was in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon specifically, called Happy Knits. And so when I moved out here, I was like, I'm gonna go to Happy Knits and it's gonna be amazing. And so I had bought this yarn there. It's an Aran weight, like a worsted Aran weight yarn. I think it's Madelinteosh, and I think it's Candlewick. It was a while ago, so that's just my memory. And that summer I was sitting outside. Really, it's just, the summers out in Oregon are just amazing. Like, you know, not that they're not amazing in the Midwest. I loved the Midwest summers for different reasons, but in the Midwest in the summer, it can be hot and humid, and you're just not like sitting out in your backyard, like in the sun. And so it's like my first Oregon summer where like you can sit in the backyard in the sun and the humidity is just not the same as it is in Illinois. And so I was just really enjoying my summers riding my bike. And I decided to knit a pair of socks in a day. And I knit the Rye socks by Tin Can Knits out of this yarn, and I knit them in a day because Aran weight yarn. Now these socks I still have, and they're almost hilarious. I wear them as slippers, but I mean, this particular yarn, whatever it is, it was not meant to be a sock. And so these things get really stretched out and they're like floppy, and like they're only like a slipper sock basically. And so anyway, I had this left over. That's why it's in two different balls, because I was knitting two socks. And so I had this leftover yarn still, and I thought, oh, I'll make this into a doll sweater. Matilda hardly plays with dolls, but I like to make her doll clothes. I was very into dolls as a child, and so I have my own American Girl dolls. I had Kirsten, Samantha, Molly, and then American Girl doll today. And I loved them, and I still love them. I loved the stories. As a child, I was a child knitter, and my like knitting days began with like knitting doll clothes. So there's this like nostalgia for me about like knitting doll clothes. I wouldn't say Matilda doesn't play with dolls. She does play with them. Just for me, when I played with dolls, it was like an everyday thing for hours. And Matilda, it's like hit or miss. Matilda is my 5-year-old, if I haven't mentioned that. She'll occasionally play with dolls, but she just really prefers like playing with her trains and playing Legos. And I fully support that, but I'll still make her doll clothes. I am to the Professor's Purls segment of the episode, and that is where I share pearls or wisdom of like my connections from being a professor to my knitting life. And today I'm not sharing, I said like this, any wisdom or anything like this. It's just like kind of something cute and quirky that I thought I'd share from my professor life to my knitting life. So as I mentioned, at this math conference I was at, I was knitting the Sophie scarf. I was also wearing one. Side note, let me know, like, have you knit one of these? Are you going to, or is this not your thing? Like, I feel like there's so many Sophie scarves, and I'm on my 3rd one. I'm curious. Let me know. Yeah, so I was knitting this, going to talks, and it was super fun. But the amount of mathematicians, the amount of male mathematicians that came up to me to talk about my knitting, like, was like almost comical, that I like started like taking notes, like texting Kyle, my husband, about it. So, okay, I'm not kidding when I say this. I had 3 different mathematicians come up to me, and not just to talk about my knitting, but to show me a picture of a crocheted hyperbolic surface. And I can't remember the first time I saw one of these. I feel like it was somewhere in between 2005 and 2010. And it was a woman from Cornell University, and she was a mathematician, and she was teaching this geometry class, and she really needed these surfaces to kind of show different geometries on them, and she like didn't have them. So she was also a crocheter, and so she made these out of like need, and then like blew up and ended up like getting like art museums and like all over the world, like in France and things like this, asking her for these like hyperbolic surfaces. And so I, at a conference, like met her. And yeah, so I've seen these. Let me know if you've seen these or heard about these. They're really cool, and it, you know, it's one of those, I wish I was a better crocheter. Sometimes it makes me want to crochet more when I see these things. I kind of, this construction is actually used in a scrunchie I've made before, like a crocheted scrunchie I've made before. And essentially you're just like multiplying the amount of stitches multiplicatively into like a stitch, maybe doubling or tripling or something. Yeah, and so it was just cute to me because it's like they had this like connection to fiber and wanted to show me this hyperbolic surface, but it was crochet and I was knitting, and I wasn't knitting a hyperbolic surface. I was knitting a Sophie scarf, like something very plain, like something not hyperbolic. So anyway, I just thought that was fun. And if you haven't seen those, you should check them out. I have a book that's like mathematics for knitting or something. Maybe I will link that below if I can find it and find the title. Yeah, so that was one kind of cute thing that happened at the math conference. The other cute thing that happened at the math conference is I signed up for a mini course before the conference started on coding like in R. I actually like haven't had the opportunity to use R. When I was an undergraduate, we learned Java and then C, and I just in my work now as a math education researcher, I do a lot of qualitative work. And so like, I really just haven't needed to code recently, but I thought, why not take a class if it's offered on coding in R? And it was really fun. Like we got to design like dice, like and simulate like playing like games like Settlers of Catan, if you play any games like that. And so it was fun. But what I wasn't expecting was a knitting reference, multiple knitting references in R. What? I was not seeing that coming. Like basically we were like kind of importing some data in, and like basically we needed to knit something, and there was a button with like actual knitting needles and yarn and said knit. Hopefully I'm putting in some pictures here, but I was so excited because I'm like knitting at this conference, and then like, you know, I love knitting, and then there it was. Anyway, if you are a computer scientist or coder or something like this, and you're watching and you like know this, like, okay, but I didn't know this, and I was so excited about it. So anyway, normally like I like do some reflections in this section, things like this, and these were just cute stories, but it's kind of how knitting and math kind of coalesced for me this weekend. Even though I am knitting some amazing things, I keep thinking about these two things I'm going to share. And they are knitted tank tops. I do not have any knitted tank tops in my wardrobe. Let me know if you do. Let me know which ones they are. If you have opinions about knitted tank tops, let me know. I do not have any knitted tank tops in my wardrobe. And the sun is shining, and it's been shining. Like this past Saturday was amazing. And so I just keep thinking about knitted tank tops. I could wear them under like a button-up shirt. I could wear a shirt underneath them. I could wear them over a dress. I could wear them just with shorts in the summer. I need a knitted tank top in my life. So my dream knitting is the 2 knitting tank tops that I for sure want to make hopefully this summer. I get distracted. I never stick to plans. I do what the heart wants when the heart wants it. That's like what's important to me with knitting. So I don't know when I'm casting these on, but I would like to knit these this summer. So the one is the Moon, I have it written down, so I always get confused on Moon Crush or Moon Bow. The Moon Crush Tank by Jacqueline Cieslak. And I've never knit intarsia. So I don't have a tank top, and I haven't knit intarsia. And I could do both. I could knit a tank top, and I think this would be an amazing first intarsia project. The other cool thing is it takes 3 skeins, 3 colors, and you can just have it like, basically like, who doesn't, I mean, maybe, basically you just take 3 skeins from your collection that you like that they go together, and you can make this tank top. You don't have to buy special 3 skeins. You can look through what you have. Here's what I have. Okay. I'm ready to roll. What it was is this was something I ripped out. So you can see the little curly Q. Okay, so this is Madelinteosh Light. And I love these colors. I think this is Button Jar Blue. This is Paper. I think this is Tomato. And that's my Moon Crush tank. And it's oversized, it's cropped, it has intarsia, it's graphic. I love it. I loved it since it came out. I wanted to knit it last summer and I didn't. This is the summer for the Moon Crush tank. It's taking all my willpower not to cast this on like today. I'm going to finish a couple sweaters before I cast it on, and that is not too hard to do because I have a lot of sweaters that are like nearly done, like the one I just showed. So that is one of the tank tops I really want to knit. The other tank top I really want to knit is the Outline Tank by Jessie Made Designs. I've seen it. I think I applied to test it. I wasn't chosen to test it, so I have liked it for a long time. Why didn't I knit it after it came out, even though I applied to knit it? I don't know. I got distracted, and I think I convinced myself I didn't want to wear it because of like the hole in the outline tank. And I was like, I don't know. And then what made me kind of like pivot and be like, no, I need this outline tank is I was watching the Arkansas Yarn Cast. It's a yarn store, Arkansas Yarn Company, and they have a podcast or, you know, like what we call podcasts in the knitting world here on YouTube. And one of the owners, Jessica, knit one in like a dark green color with slub yarn and knit it like cropped and like the perfect length of like straps, but boxy. And it was like a fit that like really like called to me, and like I was like, I need that. And then last month I got the Arkansas Yarn Company like subscription box, and I've already shown this, and it's this color, which is Friends Are the Rainbow After a Storm. And I cannot like get this out of my head as a outline tank. Like I just want this as an outline tank. But one skein is not enough for my size. For me to knit it the way I want it to fit me, which is I want it to fit me the way like Jessica's fits hers, which is like really boxy. So that means lots of positive E's, which would be more yarn. And so like, I think I would be close. And so I played with the idea of like doing a fade at the bottom, or maybe the straps in a different color. But I just basically messaged Lori and I was like, is there any chance that you have an extra one sitting around that I could buy? And so that came in the mail. And yeah, so cute. So cute. And the colors are close, maybe a little bit off. I can always alternate skeins. I have a really nice tutorial on that here on YouTube called Easy Alternator. I like it better than heel quilt knitting. It makes it easier to, it makes it very easy to alternate skeins. So anyway, I like don't know what I want to cast on first in terms of tank tops, but those are the two tank tops that I very much so know that like I would wear. I would enjoy having in my wardrobe, and I'm really excited about the yarn. And so that's my dream knitting. Maybe I should like set a, I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, should I have a knit along? Because if I have some kind of like tank top knit along, like I feel like it would motivate me to cast it on and finish. But I don't really know if anybody would be interested in a tank top knit along. Let me know. And if you are interested in a tank top knit along, if you have any suggestions for the hashtag, that would be cool. Or like timing of it. Let me know your thoughts on that. Okay, since I just recently talked about acquiring a new yarn so that I could knit the outline tank, it's probably a good time to talk about acquisitions. So when I was making the purchase of the extra skein for my outline tank, Lori's like, well, I'm doing this order. Is there anything else that I should put in your cart? And the answer was yes. I have been spying online on their website these modular little things for a while. Look at that. They have a bunch. I wanted this kind of shiny one. They had a pink mermaid one, and if I could pick, I probably would have picked the pink mermaid, but I knew if I picked the pink mermaid, my 5-year-old Matilda would steal it from me. So I was like, this would be less tempting for her to steal from me. So, okay, so this looks like a little pouch, and it has this cute little thing. So you can clip it to your bag. So attractive. But like, look at this. So this cute little, and I love hexagons. Like they're up there. I'm not going to call them my favorite polygon because it's probably a tie between that and a triangle. But, okay, when you open it up, there's things in here. Like hexagon stitch markers, cute. Little scissors, cute, that are foldable. it's like everything you need. A little needle. And then look at this. And I use these all the time because I don't know, I never remember what my needle sizes are. I'm popping them in there. So like having that is like a really nice tool. All that fits in here, this little thing. It's everything you need to do a project. So how cute. And I'm so glad I got that. And now I just need to decide what bag I want to pop it in. So that is a purchase. And the other acquisition is a sweet gift. Let me grab it. It's right there. So I sent Tammy from Michigan a prize package. And then Tammy from Michigan used my return address to send me a gift back. And I was like, what? And it's so nice. So just wait. Okay. Pink is my favorite color. And then here we go. Look at that pink. That's a good pink. And it's, the other special thing is Tammy's from Michigan. And so the yarn she sent me, both of them are from Michigan. So yeah, so it's called Gnome River Yarns. And it says it's dyed by the head gardener under direct supervision of the gnomes in Charlotte, Michigan. So cute. And yeah, let's see if there's a colorway in here. Petal pink, very appropriate. And this is a hand spun. I should have asked her. What I don't know is if she's into hand spinning. So I don't know if this is her hand spun. Part of me thinks like she spun this because it just says 4 ounces of, and usually things just say 4 ounces, like the ounces without like yardage or anything when you spin it yourself. Though she could have purchased it hand spun already, but it's hand spun. When I was opening it, my husband Kyle was like, is that Spin Cycle? And I was like, it's not Spin Cycle, but it's just like Spin Cycle in that it's dyed in the wool and then spun. And it is beautiful. Look at that. It's so much better in person. The lighting is doing a good job, but like it's also very complex and beautiful in person. And I love it. If you have suggestions, let me know, because here's where I'm just kind of like torn. Part of me thinks these look really good together and I can put it in one project. And I was thinking maybe like a cowl, like a color work cowl, like where this is like the ribbing and the main color. And then like this is like the background. And I think that could look super cute together. Like I do like these together like that. And I think that would be really fun. The other part of me thinks, okay, well, this is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. These could be socks, like my Selena socks. And you'd see the textured pattern quite nice, which would be amazing. And then this, I could use maybe in a DK sweater, and it would be enough to do like a little bit of color work of a yoke. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts, and I'd love to know if you have opinions. Tammy sent me a very cute sticker with her local yarn store, and I wanted to show it. And I don't have it here. Let me go grab it. Okay, I'm back. The Yarn Garden, that's the name of her local yarn store. So I'm thinking these things came from the Yarn Garden. With a yarn store named the Yarn Garden, it's very appropriate, I think, to have a yarn called Gnome River. It feels like it goes really well together. Anyway, thank you, Tammy. It's so, so, so sweet. And I look forward to knitting with those yarns. We've made it to the personal section of the episode. So if you've liked any of the knitting content so far, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you are only here for the knitting content, there is no more knitting content from this point forward. So what have I been reading? I finished 2 books since I last recorded. And the first book I finished was The Chemistry of Love. And it's a rom-com, very light, like I would say, like not a lot of substance to it. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm in this like part of my semester right now that's like where the workload's really increasing and like it can feel stressful. So it's nice to read. For me, I enjoy the outlet of reading something like really light and fluffy. And so that's what this was. And I thought the main character was really funny. She's a chemist, a cosmetic chemist, and she's a little naive and like falls in love with her boss. And even though they have not really had any romantic encounters, and ends up kind of developing feelings for somebody else. And it's a very slow burn. And I mean, a middle schooler could read it in terms of like spiciness. It's, yeah. So yeah, it's a cute book. Though the reviews on Goodreads, like a lot of people had some strong opinions about this Anna, the main character, because she like kind of quit early on in the book. She quits her job without another backup job, and like people were like all kinds of bothered that like a main character would like quit their job without another backup job. And I was like, I don't know. A lot of people said that seemed really implausible, but like I would say there's a big chunk of the millennial and Gen Z like kind of workforce that would quit without a backup job, particularly in a STEM career if they're being mistreated. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I also read a book called The Guest List. It was a thriller. I wanted to read it because last year my public library had a book club on it, but their book clubs, like the turnaround time is very quick. Like they'll announce like when they're having a book club and you need to read a book in like, I don't know, like sometimes a week, honestly, or like 2 weeks. And like obtaining the book and reading a book in a week or 2 weeks is sometimes not realistic for me, to be honest. So I wasn't able to participate in the book club, but I was like, I want to read it eventually. And so now was that time. And about 50% of the way into the book, I was sort of like, I don't know why this book is so popular, because it's a very popular book. But once I got through the halfway point, the thriller part of the thriller thrilled me. And I was like, I wanted to know how it ended. And so yeah, I mentioned last episode that I'm like not sure how I feel about thrillers because I have a hard time finding ones that I like, and I had a couple people make some suggestions on some thrillers for me, so I will put those like requests in at the library. So what have I been up to since the last time I've recorded? Well, a major thing is that I had a kidney stone since I last recorded, and I don't know if you've ever had a kidney stone, but I'm here to tell you they're really painful. I've heard they're painful. They're really painful, and it was a rough couple of days for me when I was passing my kidney stone. It's passed, and this is like a little bit too TMI, so I'll keep it like a little bit like a little light, I guess, which is like, or not light, I'll keep it like brief for you. But after my kidney stone, I then had some GI issues. And so now I'm in this like kind of like 2-week space where I'm doing gluten-free, kind of relieve some of the pain I was having. And I love gluten and I love bread and I love like all those things. So it's been kind of hard. So if you are gluten-free and you have any recipe suggestions, particularly simple recipes, I would love, or like advice, I'd love to hear that. So because of that, I kind of put I haven't been as like busy or active as I've normally been because of like that whole situation. So been just kind of like been at home and helping Matilda like through her like range of activities she does. So she's been taking the Spanish class at my university, our university has offered Spanish classes for children, so I signed Matilda up for that, and she loves it, and she's been doing it for like 2 months now or so. So and today's the last day. It's like the last day of Spanish, and I think she's really gonna miss it. And so it's been really fun to see her like learn a language and want to practice, and it's been really fun also to see her excitement towards like going to school. Like there was just like, I think particularly because she knows I teach at the university, and there's been a couple like a cute story is at the beginning of the fall she asked if she was a college student because she goes to my university with me, and I was like, well, you know, you're not really a college student because you go with me to the office, like you have got to go to class. And so now she like is like, I take classes here. And so I just thought that was cute. And she's been practicing her violin because she's got a recital coming up, and she's been practicing she's got a dance recital, they call it a showcase. She has a showcase coming up both around the same time, so she's been practicing her violin and practicing her dance a lot, and it's really fun to watch her practice and support her in that. So that's sort of like the main things going on for her. For both of us, we have spring break next week, and I am looking forward to it for lots of reasons. I hope I can do some knitting. I hope I can do some reading. I also hope to catch up on grading, and most importantly, out of all that, I hope to spend more time with Matilda and like have lots of fun. And so one thing is I got her signed up for swim lessons, and she's going to be doing swimming every single day of spring break. So she's super pumped to swim every single day. It's like one of her favorite activities. And so every morning I'll get to watch her swim. And when she swims, I usually like listen to an audiobook and knit. And so it's like my happy space watching her, because it's like I get to watch her have fun. I get to do some knitting. And so if you have any audiobook recommendations for me for spring break, I would love it, because I will have at least 5 hours of listening time at swim lessons, which is amazing. So that's pretty much everything that's going on with me and my knitting update. And I really appreciate you being here and taking time out of your day to watch this and chat knitting with me. So thanks so much, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.